Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another post-game show. It's a victory post-game show. This one was a hell of a lot better than the last Sunday night game, and I can say that because I was up late, but I can say that because I was dry and Bryan Anthony Davis was soaking wet when he was at the Dallas game. But the Steelers win 37-15 over the New York Jets. Joining me as always, I'm Jeff Hartman, Dave Schofield, and Brian Davis. Dave, welcome.
Yeah, this is much better. Well, first of all, we're almost an hour and a half earlier that we're starting. And if you're staying up, at least you're staying up for this time. This was a great one to stay up for. It's more, even though it's late, it's like, man, I'm energized after this one. Not like, man, I'm depressed. I just want to go to bed. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk. Let's do it.
All right, Brian, what's up?
I'm loving this. I'm loving the whole thing. Yes, I like being dry. I like being back in my studio. And I like a little bit of balance and over 32 weeks in a row.
That's crazy. It's first time since 2020, someone said in the post-game press conference, as long as whoever asked that question to Mike Tomlin was accurate. That's pretty crazy. So nonetheless, as we always start the show with our post-game, whatever, with win or lose, doesn't matter. We always start with knee-jerk reaction. So Dave, after the win, what's your knee-jerk reaction?
Knee-jerk reaction was good thing we didn't have a knee-jerk reaction with the first half, because the first half, particularly offensively, it took a little bit to click. I mean, when guys are dropping 3rd and 1s and things like that, and you see a couple passes that just seem way off, you're like, boy, what are we doing here? What was the point? But then, and then the defense giving up stuff, a poor officiating call, handing 2 points to the other team, which was pretty ridiculous. But I tell you what, that interception setting up that touchdown at the end of the first half just seemed to change everything. And man, what domination from that point on. That was, I mean, the second half was just, it's what the Steelers do in the second half a lot of time, but this one just really stood out. That was, I mean, 24-0 in the second half. That's pretty good.
Absolutely. Brian, what's your knee-jerk reaction?
Yeah, it's weird because it's basically, I'm watching it. I'm like, all right, there's a lot of rust here. And my son went and watched the first half with my dad about 30 minutes away. And he was calling me and saying, why aren't they just putting Justin Fields in? I'm like, there's a lot of rust to it, but yeah, this is not looking good whatsoever. But I think we need to hang in there. They're not going to make a change. They're not going to make a knee-jerk change. And as it hung in, towards the end of that half, when you saw some balls go into George Pickens and those contested balls, and we saw the George Pickens of old because he had a quarterback that he connected with so much better, it seemed like it was going to go in that right direction. So even at halftime, I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, that's all fair, but I feel agree with everything you guys said. I think for me, this was one of those games where the hinge point happened at odd times with players you weren't expecting. Beanie Bishop with 2 interceptions of Aaron Rodgers. I did not have that on my bingo card.
No.
What I saw in the second half, though, and Dave mentioned this, was then the Steelers, it's almost like they started to believe and they started to play a certain way and they started to actually get out of their own way at times. And we're going to talk about that all here on this post-game show. And it's always fun to start off with some super chats. Let's get some of these out there in the open. Nicholas Gabriel gives us $2. Says Tomlin haters were praying for Russ to mess up. Yeah, there were probably a lot of people,
It was going to be at his feet.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, he took it on all himself. He did.
I'm back in my hometown of Wheeling, West Virginia at a family gathering this weekend, and my wife had to leave, walk away from me because every person in my family came up to me and said, Jeff, what do you think about why is Mike Tomlin going to Russell Wilson right now? And I have to explain this over and over and over again. And I said, let's just see how it goes. And after the first half, he's getting boo birds. And then the second half, They start to change it up, start to figure some things out. So there's going to be some haters no matter what. That's just the reality of the situation. Yeah. But Justin Gall gives us $9.99. Said, screaming from the top of the mountain, special teams are beyond special and are secretly responsible for many of our wins, turning the tide. Danny Smith game ball. Hey, I said this on Twitter during the game. I'm old enough to remember when everyone under the sun wanted Danny Smith fired. He was the scapegoat number one. And Brian, you're raising your hand right now, right?
Yeah, I was the guy. I was the one that swore that he had naked pictures of somebody. But now, I mean, Connor looked at me and said, "Hey, who is that guy?" I'm like, "He chews a lot of gum." I'm like, "Yeah, he's the special teams coach. He's actually pretty special."
Hey, you thought he had the Dan McCullers pictures that they got passed down. There you go. All right, let's get Tyler W gives us $10. He said, Mike Tomlin legacy game. Almost every former Steelers big timers called him into question. They want what's best for the team, but Mike Tomlin knows what's best for his team. That's fair. That's fair. And I also know it's only one game. Yeah. So great finish. Russ had some rust. We'll put it that way, and we'll get to him in a second here. Let's get to the final super chat here. Cass gives us $4.99. Said rough first half with those underthrown balls, but he shook off the rust. Good win, fam. Absolutely. And thank everyone for donating some of their hard-earned cash to the Steel Curtain Network. We appreciate it. And as we always do, we start off these post games with a breakdown of the offense. We start with the quarterback, Russell Wilson. What's his middle name? Maybe we'll learn that at some point, but not yet. Russell Wilson.
It's a good one.
Don't want to hear it. It's just too premature. All right, so Russell Wilson goes 16 of 29 for 264 yards, a 9.1 average, throws 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions, was only sacked 1 time with a quarterback rating of 109.0. And he did have a rushing touchdown as he plunged into the end zone with a QB sneak. Dave, what was your take on Russell Wilson?
I just can't believe you don't Carrington that much about his middle name, right, Brian?
Carrington is that a whole heck of a lot, yes.
Carrington?
Oh. And Carrington was the family on Dynasty. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Anyways, Dave.
Sorry, I was just waiting for that. So what are we talking about, Russell Wilson?
Yes, we are. Mr. Russell Carrington Wilson, I guess. is
This is what I wanted to see if the Pittsburgh Steelers went to Russell Wilson. And in the first half, it was so rusty, I couldn't tell. So I still didn't know what to think about the game. I was saying I didn't know what to think about this game up leading up to it. I still didn't know exactly what to think about it. And for about the first 28 minutes, that interception, like I said, changed a lot. But when it came to Russell Wilson, I wanted to see the Steelers run an offense where the quarterback didn't have to wear kid gloves. Well, I mean, we know that the last quarterback last year had to wear gloves no matter what, but that's a whole different story. But I mean, the kid gloves, but meaning like, don't mess up, go play it easy, do all that other stuff. That's been my concern the whole time. I'm like, if bringing in Russell Wilson, if putting Russell Wilson in this game means that the kid gloves are off, then I'm happy that they're doing it. If they bring in Russell Wilson and the kid gloves are still on, I didn't get the point. And I didn't see the kid gloves. That's what I liked. I liked them. It just felt like a different offense as once they got going, seeing those, I don't know if you want to call them moon balls, if you want to call them touch passes, if you want to call them lobs, just, you know what I want to call them? Completions. That's what I want to call them more than anything. Seeing some of those passes go in, it felt good. I mean, he was what? I'm sorry, I have this fourth quarter stats up right now. I'm trying to bring. He barely, the completion rate wasn't overly strong, but my goodness, the Steelers, not only did they not punt in the second half, they scored on every possession of the second half.
Yeah,
that's what you want to see.
That is crazy. Brian, thoughts on Russell Wilson?
Yeah, the pressure, and I'm not talking about the pressure from the defense earlier on in that game was incredible, and it was taking him time to get up to regular season game speed. And that's it. We talk about rookies getting up to NFL game speed. He needed to get up to game speed, and the Jets have a very good pass rush. They have a very good front. So this was a situation with Russell Wilson where he was he was tasked with things that Justin Fields did a whole lot better, being able to take off. Chris Collinsworth at one point said that if this was Justin Fields, he'd still be running right now on one of those plays because where he could have taken off. So it's you know, the 11 years age difference was a big deal there. But when it came down to downfield passing and getting into a rhythm, Russ found a rhythm. And the running game, well, Najee Harris got better. Jaylen Warren was better because all of a sudden you've got to worry about so much more. And I felt more comfortable with Russ behind center, especially in the second half, because it was successful the whole way and they were getting help from the defense. But I felt comfortable with the fact that felt like he was in command, and it took him 2 quarters to get there. And really, that's a lot to ask. And he did it a lot quicker than a lot of people thought he would.
Dave, you said something about Russell Wilson, how the changes, you wanted to see changes in the offense. Here's a change. Listen to this. This is from Next Gen Stats, the official powered by AWS Cloud, all that stuff. This is from their Twitter feed. Russell Wilson aligned under center on 41 of his 66 snaps, his highest under center rate in a game since 2016. Wow. Wilson finished 8 of 9 for 150 yards on under center play action dropbacks, the most such yards by a Steelers quarterback in the Next Gen Stats era, which goes back to 2016.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, the one non-completion I think was a throwaway.
You're probably right.
But I'm going from memory,
but still,
so I can't.
That to me tells me that this wasn't just a let's be a little bit more aggressive. This was we're going to completely change a lot of the things that we had been doing. And this might be a glimpse into what the Steelers want to do. And it might be getting the quarterback under center, getting the play action passes to actually bite, like get the defensive backs to bite. So that's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. It's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward. And let's remember, this was the second best, based on yards per game, second best pass defense in the NFL. Now, they were beat up, and they were without a couple corners, and they lost some a safety, I know at least one, during the game. But still, this was a good performance and a good finish to the game. Any other final thoughts on Russell Wilson, Dave?
No, I know. There's just, I think I've said what I needed to say.
Fair enough. Brian, same, or want to add anything?
Distribution of labor was a whole lot more with Russell Wilson, I thought. Just the fact that I think 4 targets for Darnell Washington. That's,
yep.
I believe he had 4 targets.
He did.
I mean, that's
because he had 4 catches.
Yeah, right. He had 5 last year, right? 5 targets all last year.
They had 10 targets with 7 catches last year. So he I think he surpassed his catches from last year already now.
So yeah, it was absolutely nice to see that he was moving the ball around. Van Jefferson got into the mix. We'll talk about those guys more when we get to the receivers. I just felt like I mentioned balance at the beginning. I thought it was so much more balanced, but so much more complete. Now, when we're talking about Russell Wilson, this was not an A+ performance, and he's going to tell you it wasn't, and we are all going to tell you it wasn't. But it's a really nice building block to you're a lot more one-dimensional with Justin Fields as far as it was run, and when you get in trouble, run. So in this situation, and we love that. Don't get me wrong. This is not saying that Justin Fields is not very important to this team, because he still is. Somebody in the live chat just said it's good to have 2 QB1s. Yeah, I love that. But the fact that Russell Wilson, that experience helps him, this was a good move, and we're going to see it again next week.
Yeah, and my goal as a fan, because we are just fans, is I just want to take this one game at a time. And that's like kind of coach speak, but Russell Wilson had a good game this game. And I'm trying not to compare it to Justin Fields because let's just enjoy this win. And since Brian brought up the targets to Darnell Washington, let's go ahead and talk about the pass catchers. George Pickens goes off in this game. He was targeted 9 times, 5 catches, 111 yards. He did have a touchdown, an average of 22.2 and a long of 44. Pat Freiermuth targeted 3 times, 2 catches, 51 yards. He had a long of 30. Calvin Austin and Darnell Washington both were the second most targeted receivers with 4 targets. Calvin Austin with only 1 catch for 36 yards, should have had 2. We had Dave mentioned that drop on 3rd down earlier in the show. Darnell Washington has 4 catches, 4 targets, 36 yards. Van Jefferson hits pay dirt for the first time this year. He gets in the end zone with a touchdown, 2 catches on 15 yards. Jaylen Warren targeted 3 times, 2 catches, 15 yards. Najee Harris, he was targeted once. So there was some good dispersion of the football. What do you think about the pass catchers, Dave?
I think the pass catchers did all right. Man, I think they could have had another touchdown if Van Jefferson on that first one didn't. I don't even know that he hit the defender's feet. I think he tripped on his own. I couldn't tell for sure, but that one was frustrating. But in all, I thought they did a nice job. I felt that they multiple times. I thought, shoot, he's throwing that high pass to him. Oh, he overthrew his receiver. And then George Pickens makes that catch where he's got it, he doesn't got it, he's got it, and then he's got it. And then that one to Freiermuth, I thought for sure that was overthrown. But it was in a place where only he could catch it, and he had to make a really nice play to reach out and catch it. So outside, kind of like Russell Wilson, outside of some of the stuff early, as the game went on, I think the pass catchers got better as well when they got more comfortable with Russell Wilson. So it just seemed to be one of those games that as time went on, they all started to seem to click together a little bit better.
All right, Brian, what's your take on the pass catchers?
I think it's really interesting if you go a little bit deeper and try to guess and try to, understand what the players thought about this move. We heard Arthur Smith the other day when almost felt like he was against it. It almost felt like that. So I almost felt like the receivers in the first 3 series were inhibited. And I felt like they just weren't sure of the situation. And I'm not saying nobody was giving 100. Nobody was not giving 100%. It's not what I'm saying, but it just felt like they wanted to really get in tune with Russell Wilson, and they weren't. They didn't think they were in tune. But once it started to happen, you saw the effort level. You go even higher because George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth on those plays, Dave talked about the high one to Freiermuth. They bailed Russell Wilson out of that, but those 3 bobbles from Pickens, stuck with it. A couple weeks ago, I don't know if Pickens is staying with those balls. It felt like after the game went on, it was like, okay, we've got ourselves a leader here. So, and that's that once again, it's nothing against Justin Fields, but I felt like they were reinvigorated as it went on and they started to believe in Russ. So as far as everything goes here, I thought with the exception of the beginning of the game, it was an excellent performance from the receivers.
Yeah, you talk about the bobbled catch by Pickens. I thought Pat Freiermuth's one-handed grab was phenomenal. That was a huge play. That was another 3rd down conversion play. They bailed him out on a couple occasions. Russell Wilson at times was not very accurate in this game, especially in the first half, but nonetheless, they made the plays necessary. And I thought the pass catchers acclimated well. I do think the Steelers are still going to add a pass catcher before the trade deadline. But at the same time, I thought it was a good outing. Let's talk about the running game now. The Steelers rushed for 149 yards. 36 carries, a 4.1 yard average, 2 touchdowns, and a long of 34. Russell Wilson with one of those touchdowns, as we already mentioned. Najee Harris goes off again, another 100-yard game, this on 21 carries for a 4.9 yard average. So not as great as last week, but still a really good game. Jalen Warren, 12 for 44. No one else carries the ball. I'll say this before I throw it over to Dave. Najee Harris looks like a completely different running back the last 2 weeks. If we could get that Najee Harris for an entire season, this dude will be back next year, and he'll be the next running back to get a second contract since Verron Haynes. But that's just my opinion. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting because here's the thing with Najee Harris in this game. He had 100 yards. What was it? Would you say 102 on 21?
102 on 21, 4.9 average.
But it was the fourth quarter when he had 10 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. So that meant through the first 3 quarters, he had 11 rushes for 32 yards. But in the fourth quarter, he wears you down. And it was like the first freaking play of the fourth quarter, too. Is where you're like, oh, fourth quarter, it's Najee time. And you know what? I'm fine especially if they're going to utilize Jalen Warren more, things of that nature. And really, in this kind of game, the fourth quarter is right there where Najee Harris should take over. And could you complain that, oh man, he wasn't overly productive earlier in the game? You could, but when you needed to run clock and grind it out and put the game away, there he was.
All right, fair enough. Dave, did you think Jalen Warren looked healthy in this one?
More than he had been.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I thought so.
All right, Brian, what's your take on the running game?
All right, this Bryan Anthony Davis comment is sponsored by the word balance, and this entire show is sponsored by the word balance. They brought balance to the force here. Najee Harris was, yes, running tough. And he did it last week with a different quarterback, so it wasn't the Russ Wilson thing. Najee is motivated, but that win against Vegas did carry over into this game. As far as game plan, I know it didn't seem like it early, but they put points on the board early, though. They put a field goal on early, so it just kind of felt like Najee Harris is completely reinvigorated here. It feels like he is he's earning that contract, which I think he's already earned the contract a long time ago. But I feel like he is on a different plane now, and he's running way after the whistle. And there was ended up being a 4th and 1, but you thought, well, look, it seems like he should still be going, but they blew the whistle. And his legs keep on going. He is an absolute horse. Now, when I watched Breece Hall at the beginning of this game, I'm thinking, my gosh, this offense is in trouble because that guy is just fast. And he's a different kind of, my son asked me about the difference between Hall and Harris. I said, they're different kinds of running backs. Yes, they play the same position. But when I watched Breece, he kind of faded out a little bit, and Najee got stronger. And what have we asked for years? It's to get the running game going in the fourth quarter. And when that running game's going, and I think what was the last drive? About 8 minutes? That last drive seemed to last forever, if I'm not mistaken. But
the one that they scored?
The final drive, yes.
It was 7 minutes and 27 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're 4 seconds away from being able to round up to 8 minutes. Yeah.
In a garbage time TD, I know they weren't playing for it, but I'm glad he broke free and got that TD, because I think that touchdown for Najee Harris is going to do so much even more for his game and the stat line, and having the touchdowns like he did. I feel like this game, with not only the 100 yards, but with the touchdowns, I feel like it's a situation where Najee's ready to break out even more.
I was super stoked that he scored because for all the times that Mike Tomlin, rightfully so, just kneels on it when they could put points on the board, and then therefore the offense's averages are much lower. Finally, like Najee scores, they score 37 points, and it boosts them up a little bit because, like, I think what was it, Denver week 2, where they had the ball like the 3-yard line and they just kneeled on it, and they're like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's the 1 yard line. Yeah.
Oh, it's a 1-yard line. Yeah. So
Yeah.
come on. I think Atlanta, they could have,
Atlanta, they could have
bypassed it,
scored
but
again too. Yeah.
So I think this is one of those situations for me. It's kind of like football justice is kind of evening itself out a little bit, but still.
Well,
go ahead, Dave.
want to know the truth? I thought on fourth down they were and should have kicked field goal.
I did
gone
too.
up 3 scores.
Oh yeah, I'm sitting here with my dad.
Instead, they're like, we'll go for a fourth down, and it's a touchdown. Okay, no joke. I had already, I was starting to. I was like, Steelers going to win this. I already started the Game Ball article, which is up at steelcurrentnetwork.com, and I was typing in the score, and I typed in 33-15, and I'm like, oh, they're going for it. I deleted the 3 and I waited. I'm like, oh, 7. There you go. I'll take it.
All right, let's finish up the offense by talking about, I think, a group that played. I thought they played great. It was the offensive line, and it's also because Ryan McCollum is getting his first start as a starting center in the NFL. He's been around the league and in the league a while, but you starting to get some continuity there across the line. No, I know Zach Frazier's not there, but you've got Dan Moore next to Isaac Seumalo. That's been there for a few weeks. You've got Broderick Jones next to Mason McCormick on the right side. It's been there a few weeks. I thought they did a good job, the offensive line. They only gave up 1 sack, and when you look at the defensive stats for the Jets, 5 quarterback hits. So not horrible at all. And then you look at the rushing numbers, and I'm going to give my own thoughts real quick before I throw it over to Dave. I really like Mason McCormick just from an attitude perspective.
Love him.
The guy brings it. He's got an edge to him. He wears that number. That number means something in the Steelers organization. He wears 66 for those that don't know, whether you're talking about Alan Faneca, David DeCastro. He's going to be a fan favorite, if not already, in the near future, I think. But Dave, you're the offensive line guru. What did you think about that group?
I thought they did much better in the run game. I like the very first play of the game. The first thing I noticed was they got like a 3-yard push. I was like, "Ooh, that's good to see with the backup center. That's something I'd like to see them grow on." Now, were there times that there were some breakdowns in pass protection? Yeah, there were. And when they had that play where there was 2 penalties, one on McCollum and one on Dan Moore Jr., they got who was who backwards.
Yeah.
It was Dan Moore that was downfield and it was McCollum that held. But in all, yeah, I really like Mason McCormick. I like his attitude. But honestly, I put Ryan McCollum as a guy that was up as potentially eligible for a game ball in his first start. Not that he did all world, not that he was better than Zach Frazier, trust me. But he didn't. The best way to say it is this: he didn't kill us. That was a big concern coming to this game. Oh, how's it going to be? The Steelers' best offensive lineman is out, and how is the backup? Which is the backup? However far down the line it would be because of the injuries. How is he going to perform? And you know what? He didn't hurt him. He did. I thought he did a nice job. I thought overall that the Steelers' offensive line did their part.
Absolutely. Brian, thoughts on the offensive line?
When Frazier was deemed out, and we knew it was going to happen right away when he got hurt against the Raiders, but when that happened and they made the announcement that it was going to be a switch, and we knew it was going to be a switch when Pelissero, however you say it, came out and said it, and that's they were going to keep it close to the vest. George Pickens kind of leaked it a little bit, but everybody knew. I mean, George Pickens didn't leak it. Everybody knew, and when that happened, I understood the fact that you got to put Russ in there, but the offensive line really scared me because Frazier was going to be gone. And like Dave said, Ryan McCollum kind of eased that. And the fact that now that that it might have to wait until after the bye. And to get Zach Frazier back, you feel pretty good with Ryan McCollum at home going up against the New York Giants now. So that means you don't have to feel rushed to get Zach Frazier back. And that's the big thing there. Mason McCormick, Jeff, you kind of stole my thunder on that, because I'm going to add to that. And what I was going to say was he's not coming out of the lineup. He's already penciled in for next year. I mean, if James Daniels was available and the last quarter of the season, which he's not going to be, but if he was, you would almost feel like, wow, they can't take Mason out. He's playing that well. Let's talk about Broderick Jones. Did we hear the only negative thing I heard about Broderick Jones all night was at the beginning when Collinsworth of Tirico were talking about the offensive line and saying that he's kind of the guy on the offensive line, and kind of intimated that they're not performing. And I kind of felt like, even though they didn't come out and say it, I kind of felt like he said he's the part of the weakness of this team. And it was intimated. It wasn't said, but I kind of felt like that's what they were saying. And if that's the only time you're going to have something negative about Broderick Jones in that game, that's a good thing. Offensive linemen, unless you're pointing them out for a great block, the time you're hearing this is, Jeff, I'm stealing your pros here, but when you hear an offensive lineman's name, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can I say something about Broderick Jones?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He has been struggling. He's been one of the weaker spots on the offensive line. But it was really interesting tonight. He did give up the only sack. That was to McDonald. But I thought he looked better tonight at first glance. I really need to go back and actually focus on him. Still room for improvement. Still reverts to some bad technique to try to rely on his athleticism rather than to develop the better technique in order to get the job done. If that makes any sense. But he was going up against the guy that supposedly the Jets settled for because the Steelers traded ahead of them to draft him. And they were going one-on-one all night. You know what I'm saying? Now the guy got a sack. But if you really want to look at it with McDonald, he had 3 tackles, 1 sack, which was his only quarterback hit, and a tackle for loss that was all wrapped in one play. And he did bat down one other pass. But other than that, it's not like they were constantly wreaking havoc the whole game, which is something that you could have seen happen at some point. So I would say improved this week.
Very good. All right. Real quick, before we take a quick break, we have a lot of super chats to get to, and we're going to get to them all. I'd always like to update injuries, and I forgot to do this at the top of the show. Mike Tomlin in the post-game press conference said there were 2 injuries. Montravius Adams, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, ankle? Or was it knee?
Shoulder.
Knee.
Oh, no,
Adams
was his knee. He was questionable with the knee. Then they removed the status. He went to play and then hurt the knee.
Yeah. Okay. And then Dante Jackson injured his shoulder and was unable to return. James Pierre filled in for him. So wanted to update everyone on those 2 injuries. Everything else was, I guess, bumps and bruises associated with the game of football, as Mike Tomlin always says. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hit up these live chats. We're going to talk about the defense and then wrap things up. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Thank you for being patient. For those that are watching live on all those platforms, we didn't go anywhere. We have a lot of super chats to get to. Let's get to all of them. Here we go. Tyler gives us $1.99. Says Beanie Bishop jersey sales, and it has the stock trending up. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Beanie Babies too. I don't know, but
yeah,
I thought those are funny.
Can I say one thing more about him? I know we'll get to it on the defensive side.
We will.
It wasn't just the interception. Then it was the tackle for loss on the Jets' one play before the half. I thought that was big. They ran one play, and he I was happy for him.
There you go. Jaron Dale gives us $1.99. Said, who has the bigger wad of gum, Smith or Hurdle? Oh, it's Danny Smith by a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, Clint Hurdle had a decent wad of gum in his cheek, but Danny Smith's got like, I don't know, double bubble out the wazoo going on there. Faceless Man gives us $4.99. Says 31 unanswered points. Arthur Smith called a hell of a game. Big team win. In the second half, especially, I thought he had the great play calls. I still hate the consistent run on second and long. Drives me up a wall.
Once again, I want to jump in and say something real quick. Sorry. There's a big difference when it comes to calling plays and doing everything when you're looking at it from an attitude of, oh, this is what we can do, rather than, oh, this is what we can't do. And that's just the feeling that I'm getting here. And I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm not saying that they should have had that feeling before. That's just how they operated. But they weren't operating that way. So to me, that's part of the reason it feels different.
All right. Sean Manahan gives us $5. It's Steelers points for versus points against is up there with tops in the league. I'll have to take a look at that. I haven't looked at those stats, especially after this last outing. Sean Manning gives us another $5. His 31 unanswered. Absolutely. Yeah. Kyle Smith gives us $5. His one game of Wilson, and I already believe in the offense twice as much. Let's go. I also think Najee might be emerging to a true new level of play. Hey, let's see. Like I said, he looked like a different back. Keep it going. Keep it going. This is fantastic. I mean, just S. Myers, 3423 gives us $49.99. Thank you very much. They said, still not totally sold on Russ, but he absolutely did what needed to be done tonight. Gave the receivers an opportunity to make plays. Could be something there. Excited for the evolution. Thanks for what you guys do. Thank you for the tip. We appreciate it.
And that's a really good way to put it, though, too. That really is. Like that one. Just that, hey, it's a one-game sample. You don't want to get too excited, but man, he did what he needed to do and gave the receivers an opportunity to make plays.
For sure. All right, let's go to James Wright. He gives us is those dingo dollars? $2.99.
Probably.
All right, the dingoes.
I don't know what else it would be.
He said, great win. Now go sign Mike Williams, who did have a catch in the game tonight. Big third down conversion.
And the fans were shouting to him, we'll see you next week in the Steeler uniform after the game.
Wonder what his response was.
Hey, if you had your choice to go into one of the two locker rooms tonight afterwards, which one would you rather be going into?
That's a great point. That's a great
point. I would have just walked into the Steeler locker room if I was Mike.
Should I just go there now, or do I have to wait?
Say,
do we have to go back to New Jersey? Yeah. Sean Manning gives us another $2. At 5-2 feels so good. It really does. Yeah. And I got to be honest, sometimes we can all be a little negative at times, and the fan base can be pretty negative at times. And sometimes it doesn't feel like the Steelers are 5-2, and yet here we are. Tom plays games as he goes by on the YouTube. He gives us $5 at $1 per W. Things look good after a slow start. Great team win. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Thank you very much. Let's go to Punk Drummer 3R. I think that's what it is. $1.99. 5-2. I see lights feeling real nice right now. I hope you don't have to work tomorrow. All right. Let's go to John Liam Bruno. Okay, $9.99. There you go. Glad we started making plays so Collinsworth would stop talking about the Rodgers-Adams bromance. Amen to that. He continues, if I heard one more comment about those two living together and driving to the game. Amen, brother. I'm totally with you there. I'm watching the game with my dad. We're like, oh my gosh, are we going to hear this for 4 quarters?
I was waiting to see a graphic with them in a hot tub together.
or a commercial spoofing that they're like perfect strangers rather than.
That's what I was going to say, Dave. I was going to bring up perfect strangers like Goose and Laddie. That would be Aaron Rodgers, by the way. I think Devontae.
Of course not. Don't be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous. Okay, let's go. We are slap happy. Let's go to Justin Gall. He's gives us $9.99. Said Russell.
Again, thanks.
Yeah, clearly a better NFL quarterback, changing the plays of the line of scrimmage, total control of the offense, the touch on the passes, just a couple brain farts. And if he was a touch faster on the scramble, Russell had a good game.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's not Justin Fields when it comes to that. It's just, you got to know that.
Yeah. And at the same time, you're saying changing the play of the line of scrimmage. If the Steelers had stripped Justin Fields of doing that, then I can't say that's a knock on Justin Fields. I don't know if that's fact or not, but just keep that in mind. All right, let's go to Steelers fan 69 gives us $10. Up, here comes the dad joke. He said, I bought a new GPS with the voice of singer Bonnie Tyler. It's crap. It keeps telling me so. Turn around, bright eyes, and every now and then it falls apart.
Which Steeler fan 69, that song was number 1 41 years ago this week.
There you go.
Which one of those bro movies is the it's not weddings, it's which one is it with the
Old School?
Where the Old School,
Total,
that's right.
Total Eclipse from the Heart, right?
When he's singing that.
That's the Dan band. That's an actual
expletives.
band. That's an actual band. Look them up, the Dan band. Hysterical. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to Nathan Smith, gives us $4.99. Says, way to juke us all like Najee. We were all waiting in a different stream. Have to admit, I thought the switch to Wilson was a bad idea. Here's my penance. Thank you very much for this.
Don't worry. I went in when I saw that they were in a different stream and came over. I went in and deleted the other one. That one's on Brian.
I deleted it too.
It's the Raiders fandom in him that's bringing this on.
I deleted that as well, but that was my fault, so I do apologize.
Sean Manahan gives us another $5. Says McCollum didn't piss down his own leg, and that's a Tomlinism for sure.
He said urinate.
Is that what he said? Urinate? He didn't urinate down his leg.
Urinate down his leg.
Who did Tomlin say that about? I can't even remember.
I think it was Jalen Warren.
Yes.
I do.
All right. Very good. All right. Let's go to Andrew Palladino, my buddy from West Virginia. He's $4.99. He said, how frustrated were you guys after the blocked punt callback?
He means extra point.
Yeah. Not the first time we've been screwed in that department. Second felt great. Ball doesn't lie. Minka Fitzpatrick did not push off of TJ Watt. His hand touched him, but did not push off. That was as bogus as it gets. And Danny Smith was irate. He was irate. It's a bad call. I will get to the officials. Trust me. All right, let's go to Punk Drum 3R Drummer. Yeah. $9.99 said, I thank yins for your podcast. I hardly catch y'all live. I'm a maintenance worker. I appreciate the hard work and making my shifts go faster with the Steelers football talk. Spotify listener, thank you very much. The fact that you also listen to all of our audio only stuff. You're only getting half of it if you're here on the YouTube side. So make sure you check us out wherever you get your podcast by searching Steel Curtain Network. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to Nicholas Gabriel. Gives us $2. Deshaun Elliott equals Ryan Clark 2.0. Dude is a beast. Number 25. We'll talk about Deshaun Elliott. He's phenomenal. In the open field, man, that guy is something else. Something else. Anyone want to say anything about him?
I like him.
Right. Or are we going to wait until you bring him up?
He's great. All right.
It's so funny because he's made so many good plays.
Yeah.
Last week when he was the guy that was not last week, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Last time we were doing a post-game show after midnight, he was the guy that was right there when they made the catch to win the game, but yet he was right there. I didn't really feel like he did anything wrong. And I'm like, he just does so many good positive things that I didn't want to give him a hard time. I'm really happy with that addition.
For sure. Dylan A gives us $1.99. So props to Beanie for stepping up big time. Hashtag here we go. Agree 100%. Let's go to Brandon Diaz. He gives us $1.99. I may have been wrong about Russ. Just win, baby. Yeah, and that's okay. It's okay to also admit that maybe you were wrong if you had some hard feelings. Derek Sessions gives us $10. Said Russ wasn't perfect, but he operated the offense in ways I haven't seen since our guy, you know who. Great win for confidence for the fans and the team. This is a big confidence boosting win. I agree with that.
Like I said before the game, though, he's really the first quarterback that they've really, given free reign with since our guy, you know who.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, my buddy Quint, he gives $2. He said, Dick Shiner, Buzz Nutter, 2028 shirts. Come on, Jeff.
Shiner Nutter 28 sounds like a snack cake.
Shiner Nutter 28. Yeah, we'll have to try to figure out a way to do that. That would be funny. And then lastly, another one from Sean Manahan gives us $5. He said the urinate on his leg. Right. He said urinate on his leg quote was about Duck Hodges.
No, I'm pretty sure it was, and someone else said it in the live chat too. I'm pretty sure it was Jaylen Warren.
Okay. I agree. Jaylen Warren.
I can't. I mean, it's not like I can. I'm not going to. If someone proved to me that I was wrong, I'll believe you. But I'm just going from my memory. I just remember that one just because it was so funny because he was, the undrafted free agent, blah blah blah. But
yeah, it is. Right, I have proof. I have proof. Yeah. CBS Sports, yeah. Jaylen Warren.
Okay. All right, fair enough. But thank you for the tip, Sean.
We still love you, Sean. That's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
It's still a great quote.
All right. Let's talk about the defense, and let's start off with. I think what's appropriate is let's start with the pass rush. So Aaron Rodgers got sacked just one time, and
first drive.
Yeah, and that sack was Larry Ogunjobi had the sack. The Steelers had 8 quarterback hits, but they just couldn't get to Aaron Rodgers. TJ Watt, he's definitely been stymied the last 2 weeks. TJ had a very mundane game. He did have a pass defense, 2 quarterback hits, and only 1 total tackle. What do you guys think about the pass rush here in this game? Dave, we'll start with you.
I was disappointed with it. I will say that. I was frustrated because there was some times where Rodgers had time and then was able to make the connection. But it's almost as if the Steelers had the game plan that, Rodgers gets rid of the ball so quickly, so maybe we should focus on other things than having to get home. And if that was what they were emphasizing, I get it because it didn't kill him. But at the same time, I really would have liked to have seen them really get to go after him. I thought Alex Highsmith put a lot of pressure. I thought Alex Highsmith was the one, usually we're screaming about TJ Watt. He was the one getting held, and he wasn't using a rip move. So it's not like there's justification that, because of the rip move, the offensive guy's hand can still hold its ground. So it looks like he's choking or holding the guy, but he's allowed to do it. That wasn't the case. He's just dipping, but not ripping. And they're grabbing a hold of him, falling on top of him, and he just wasn't getting the call. So I thought Highsmith was doing a decent job. It made a big difference getting it back. And I'm not saying that TJ Watt was bad or no, it's not that. It just almost seemed like that there was almost a different game plan coming in than trying to get to the quarterback at times. I don't know if that was really it or not, but it was disappointing that there was times that Rodgers had so much time to throw.
Yeah. Brian, what's your take on the pass rush?
This was Flacco all over again. Really, when Mike Tomlin came out after that Indianapolis Colts game, they said, hey, look, we knew we couldn't really send them as much. And he said the same thing about Kirk Cousins as well. Kirk Cousins gets the ball out, so we're going to play back. So I agree with where Dave was going, and I emphatically believe Dave's right there, because that's exactly what they've done 2 other times this year with veteran quarterbacks that get the ball out quick. Now, TJ Watt, he was sniffing. He was close. That pass block was phenomenal, and he was close a couple of times, not as close as he has been in other weeks. But when you have 3 guys on you, that's going to hinder you. But it also freed up some other guys as well.
Yeah, for sure. The pass rush, I thought Alex Highsmith had a great game. Dave, you're right. He got tackled, held a bunch. They need him back. And then you can start to see if when Nick Herbig comes back and Jeremiah Moon is still contributing a decent amount. I thought Keanu Benton showed on a couple plays in this game. Larry Ogunjobi, boy, did he come out of the gates fast. And then that stupid penalty, again, we'll talk about the officiating a little bit later. But yeah, I thought the defensive pass rush was hoping they got to Aaron Rodgers a little bit more, but I knew their game plan wasn't going to allow them to wreck the game. Real quick, Sean Manahan gives us $2 again and says, maybe y'all were right with the duck. It didn't kill us, LOL. So
Duck was definitely he didn't kill us.
Yes,
that's for sure.
That is for sure. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the pass defense now. Obviously, 2 interceptions of Aaron Rodgers as he throws for 276 yards and a rating of 70. He did throw a touchdown. You look at the pass defense for the Steelers. Obviously, Beanie Bishop with the 2 interceptions. You had Cam Hayward had a batted pass for a pass defense. Keanu Benton got his hand on 2. TJ Watt had 1. I got to be honest, like those interceptions by Beanie Bishop were not just the turning point. Everything just flipped on its head, especially the second one, which I didn't think that he got a piece of that. The pass to Garrett Wilson, I know his hand probably got right in the way of the football for Garrett Wilson to see it, but they were saying it looked like it might have glanced off his hand or something.
Yeah,
I didn't see that, but what did you guys think about the pass defense in this game? Dave, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, that first interception, that would have been a really nice catch for an offensive player.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone a defensive player. That was a great play. The second one, was he a guy that was right place, right time? Yeah, which is a lot of what it takes to get interceptions in this league as well. So you can't just say, oh, well, they were just kind of handed to him. That first one, he made a great play. The second one, he didn't lose focus and brought it in. And man, I really wanted to see him run that back the whole way. That would have been really nice. But the pass defense, I think it lost a bit when James Pierre came in for Dante Jackson. Although Dante Jackson, I think, played about maybe 15 snaps and had about 25 missed tackles during those snaps. It seemed like I just noticed him several. I mean, he got hurt on a missed tackle. Yeah, I know he had another missed tackle earlier. That's not his strongest suit, but yeah, I thought that the pass defense overall was pretty solid. I think Joey Porter is at a whole different level. I do. And I also think in today's NFL, you're not just going to be able to shut a team down where they just can't complete passes. It's simply going to happen. I just think they did a nice job of saying, you know what, you want to target Devontae Adams a lot. We're gonna make it very difficult for him. And I thought they did a nice job with that.
Yeah, well said. Brian, thoughts on the pass defense?
This is simple to me. They have no problem giving up the little stuff. Aaron Rodgers could not go deep on this team. And Dave, you are absolutely correct when you say that Joey Porter is that shutdown guy. Joey Porter has elevated. And that was the one guy that actually scared me going into the season, just saying, hey, I mean, he had flashes of brilliance last year. Is he good enough to make that next step? He's made that next step, and he is being noticed by guys like Tarico and Collinsworth and all across the league as a number one guy, and the Steelers have one. Now, as far as Beanie Bishop, last Monday night, I was at my parents' house, and my nephew mentioned how much he loved Beanie Bishop. He mentioned Deshaun Elliott, and I was all over Deshaun Elliott. I was like, I love this guy, and they said, oh, Beanie Bishop's great. I'm like, I'm not sold on Beanie Bishop. I don't think he's that good. I think he's lost out there. And so I texted my nephew after the second interception, and I apologized, and he just wrote back, thank you, because Beanie Bishop at 5'8", played 6'8" today. He looked really good in this game. But Dave, you're absolutely correct when you say that tackle was so important as well, and it really was. He looked, and somebody said it in the live chat that, and I'm not sure who did, but it was mentioned that the reporters were talking about how he was going to get picked on like crazy because he was a weak link in practice all last week. I hadn't heard that, but I'm reading that here. And if that's true, then that kind of talk goes on a bulletin board and goes on the bulletin board of young Beanie Bishop's mind. And that's a big deal for a guy like him. And now he did it in prime time. not just Steeler fans know who number 31 Beanie Bishop is. Everybody does. And that's a big deal. So I really think that with the additions of Dante Jackson and of course Deshaun Elliott, I think that's so important. But Beanie Bishop is solidifying his spot with this team, and you get Cam Sutton back in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up. Is a lot of people were asking about Cam Sutton and when does he return? He's eligible to return, I think, to practices this week.
I thought he was even last week.
Maybe
I just didn't hear about it.
Or
I
was
thought
last,
it was 4
or was
he
last
could
week
come back in the building,
or
and
was
6
last
he
week
could
team,
actually.
Or was last week
meetings?
Team meetings?
You're right. Last week was team meetings. You're right.
And then I think this week is practice. Then they have the bye week, and then he's able to return after the bye week. But hey, you know what? It's a good problem to have that you have multiple players that are capable and they have different skill sets, and they might need Cam Sutton if Dante Jackson's shoulder is a lingering issue. Like, you don't know. Having Cam Sutton back is going to be a good boost for this team. It doesn't mean that Beanie Bishop is going to get benched or anything like that, but
And if
I
you
think
can't find a way to get him on the field, that's not a terrible thing. It's because other people are playing well.
No,
and somebody just mentioned Corey Trice will be back soon.
He'll be eligible
as long he's eligible to be back soon, as long as he's healthy. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, that's a good thing. And in terms of the defense, though, I want to ask you guys, what did you think was the biggest difference between first half, second half defense, Dave?
Okay, first half versus second half. Well, they were doing good against the run in both halves. They really were. Honestly, first half versus second half, I think it's extremely obvious what it was. I think it was tackling.
Yeah.
Their tackling in the first half was not good. I mean, look at the 57-yard run. They had, wasn't a run. Well, technically, I mean, it was a run after the catch. But I mean, it was a dump off behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. And oh my goodness, TJ Watt almost got Cole Holcombed.
I saw that.
And he did come off, but luckily he was okay. But he wasn't planted. It was, it was a Landon Roberts is who it was, but Patrick Queen was right there as well. Those 3 guys were all there to make that tackle for a 1 or 2 yard gain, and they took each other out. And then he busted, and then Dante Jackson can't tackle him, and then so the tackling was an issue early on, and I felt that they really shored that up more in the second half, and that was, to me, was the bigger difference.
Absolutely. Brian, what do you think?
Here we go. This is simple to me again. And you're going to give me hell for this. It was the offense. And it was confidence that gave the defense a chance to just batten down the hatches and do what they do and not worry about being on the field way too long. And when you have a 7.5 minute drive to end the game in the fourth quarter, that helps your defense as well too. Tackling was very poor in the first half. The tackling, like you said, Dave, Jeff, you said, it was so much better in the second half. But also the aura of Aaron Rodgers, to me, I think there's some people in awe of the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams could hook up and just pick up where they left off last time they played together. And I think there was so much, there were things that I think this team was tight and they relaxed. So the confidence and the offense helped them relax as well. So I'm going to stick to that.
All right. I don't want to go too long here. So let's do some, is there anything you wanted to bring up other than stuff that we haven't spoken about yet, Dave? Did we miss anything you wanted to touch on?
I wanted to say one more thing about the first half versus the second half.
Sure.
One last thing. Another thing that helped with that was the time of possession.
Yeah, I felt like the defense wasn't on the field very much.
Yeah, the offense, decisively won the time of possession in the second half versus the first.
Yeah. Brian, anything that you wanted to add?
I'm good.
All right, let's do some super chats. We'll do some final thoughts and we'll get out of here. Sean Manning, another $5. With Justin, you got red. You paint the barn red. With Wilson, you paint the barn red, black, green, blue, etc. I will see if Mike Tomlin talks about being like a Bob Ross painter this week. We'll see. Let's go to Justin Galgas at $9.99. Said, surprised we got screwed on so many calls with Sean Smith's crew. How about Highsmith getting tackled and no call? I think these things even out or no. Dave?
Yeah. I had a little. I sometimes you don't want to put things out on X that you just don't think are too crazy. I don't want to be someone who just falls into conspiracy theories. But in that first half, I have to admit, I was worried about this going into the game. I'm like, Aaron Rodgers is kind of like the NFL golden boy right now. Now they got Devontae Adams. It's a great story. They're only 2-4, and yet they're favored in Pittsburgh against the 4-2 Steelers. The NFL really wants this Jets team in that market. They need someone from that market to be decent because both teams stink record-wise. And they really want to hype that up. It's almost like the NFL needs the Jets to be relevant. And it almost seemed like early on they were getting as much help as they could to make sure they could get back to relevance. But the Steelers just played too well.
Oh, Dave's getting his tinfoil hat out. I love it. Welcome to the
they gave him 2 points.
Welcome to the club, Dave. I've had a conspiracy theory mind with the NFL for so many freaking years. It's ridiculous. And so I'm going to start with my final thoughts. And it's about the National Football League. And it's about the god-awful officiating and the unbelievable precedents that they set in the first quarter when they flagged Larry Ogunjobi for a 15-yard personal foul for tackling a running back that if all of a sudden he eases up on that running back and the back spins out of it and gets 10 yards, he's left thinking, well, I didn't want to throw him to the ground too hard. And people are saying, well, he grabbed him by the neck. There's no penalty in the NFL if you grab a player by the neck and tackle them. Just like if you grab someone by the hair, asked Troy Polamalu when he got tackled by Larry Johnson by the hair, it's not a flag. And so when they set that precedent, and then you saw it in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, Jaylen Warren had runs where he was still moving the pile, or his offensive line was. Najee Harris had runs where he was still moving the pile. Quick whistle. And I think what gets me the most is it's 2024. And I did put this out on Twitter, Dave, because I'm fine with being a conspiracy theorist. It's 2024.
I did. I put it
okay, it's 2024. Russell Wilson goes for a QB sneak. And no one freaking knows because it's a rugby scrum. And so Russell Wilson's somewhere on the bottom. The head official ends up holding the football in his hand outside the pile. Bodies are still being pulled off the scrum. Next thing you know, Russell Wilson stands up. The guy with the football looks at the side judge and goes, yeah, let's just put it here. And then they look over and say, first down. It's a billion-dollar organization, and they are still using sticks and chains for a first down measurement. This is the biggest joke of all. The NFL doesn't care. If they did, they would have done something by now. The NFL is a joke for their officiating.
And the chips are already in the ball, Jeff.
The what?
They have them in there for spin rates and stuff like that for the next gen stats.
I know they do.
The balls are already chipped. They could do it.
I know. And the thing is it just drives me insane. And people are like, what needs to be fixed? They're not going to fix anything because they clearly have not changed a thing. And so they're fine with the product the way it is, even though it's just being slowly, the legs are just getting cut out from underneath. But anyways, I'm going to get off of my soapbox now and let you all talk. Brian, you want to add on to that?
I do want to add to that. I thought this was very crazy. There was not a delay of game on Aaron Rodgers. And I thought there was one play where he went late and they didn't call it.
They gave him the timeout.
But in the air, and then he turned and called timeout, and they gave it to him.
Yeah.
He'd already thrown the flag.
And they said, they usually, Dean Blandino or whoever it was saying,
replay from the end zone.
They said
see.
Historically.
Look at the clock. Look at the official. He had already pulled the flag out and thrown it. The flag was already in his hand and moving by the time Rodgers turned. The only thing would have been if they called a timeout from the sidelines, which they did not say that they did.
And it was a second past it. So, I mean, it was zero. It wasn't just like a hair.
They bring in Terry McAulay, and he says, well, historically, we always give him that. Like, are you talking about quarterbacks or Aaron Rodgers? Because it could be both.
Or Tom Brady.
Historically, we bend the rules for certain
Come
players.
on, Jeff. You knew they were already getting in trouble for them criticizing the call that Micah Fitzpatrick that was a 2-point swing. They couldn't do it more than that, or else you're going to draw more attention to the agenda.
Yeah. All right. Dave, go ahead and do your final thoughts.
All right, my final thoughts. My final thoughts are, do we have to answer a bunch of questions about this again? I don't know. I had gone to visit my father yesterday, and on the way back, I made a stop at one of Maryland's gaming establishments, and they're dressed in my Steelers gear. I had all kinds of people of varying intoxication levels coming up to me and asking me what the Steelers are doing with Fields versus Wilson. It was just what everyone wanted to talk about. Well, for one game, we got a pretty good one game sample. Now we got to get another game that gives us a good sample. There were times in this game that I thought if the Steelers were doing what was best for the Steelers, they would have brought in Justin Fields. Like, especially when they were first and goal at the 3 and they ended up not scoring, that one was a little bit frustrating. But I also get not doing it right away when you're trying to say you're wanting to see what you got out of Wilson. Do that another game if you don't even bring in Justin Fields at all. But after the bye week, if this is really about having the best chance for the Steelers to win a Super Bowl based on their quarterback play, then you've got to start doing that. Now, I know other people are like, I don't like the switch in the quarterback thing, everything else. Here's the thing you remember with Justin Fields. Even if it's a 3rd and 1 and you're going to hand the ball off to Najee Harris, you bring Justin Fields into the game and just have him hand the ball off to Najee Harris, assuming they can handle the snap and all that other good stuff. I don't want to speak that into existence. You're instantly setting off the alert on the defense of there is now something else we have to defend. And the more they have to think about it and care about it, it might just make the outside guys move a foot wider on each end. And that could open up something up the middle. I would like to eventually to see them say, hey, we've got both of these assets. Let's go ahead and do what's really best for the Pittsburgh Steelers, game in and game out. Now, if they want to get another game with Russ Wilson under their belt and worry about that stuff during the bye week, that's fine. But if it's really about getting the Pittsburgh Steelers to where they need to be, I think that would be a pretty cool dynamic to bring. But for now, I'm just really happy to see the Steelers come out and once again dominate a second half. Once again, for me to say to my wife, hey, before you head to bed, come down and watch the game with me for a little bit. This one's done. The Steelers got this one. We can actually enjoy it. You don't have to worry about watching me sit here and stress out. It was 2 weeks in a row. Now, yes, the Jets were 2-4. So for those that want to poo-poo on anything, yes, they had an injured secondary. But you know what? For some reason, the Jets were getting hyped up. They were favored to win this game. Everything. They're this great team, the best. How many people talking about they might be the best 2-4 team ever? Well, now what kind of 2-5 team are you? Is what you got to ask, because the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just get the win; they got it done decisively. Keep going. Don't let up next week on Monday Night Football and roll into the bye 6-2. Let's go Steelers.
Amen. Bryan Davis, final thoughts.
Yeah, I was planning something much along the same lines of Dave, but here's the difference. The fact that you don't have to escape. Because you win the game, and that's a big deal. But when you feel like you've escaped, like the Denver game, you felt like you escaped a little bit. And there's other games you feel like, wow, we're glad that we have the win, but you feel uneasy after it. And you just don't feel right after it. These 2 wins, 69 points in the last 2 weeks, that feels really good. And it's going to continue to feel good if they can continue to do this. We all talked about how they had to be 6-2 at the bye. We're not looking ahead. You're not going to look past the New York Giants. But you feel going into this game that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to win the games against the teams they need to beat, they're supposed to beat. And even in the Ben Roethlisberger era, they weren't beating those teams. They were losing to the Bucs when Dave is in attendance. They're losing to just last year, even though it wasn't Ben Roethlisberger, they lost 3 in a row on my birthday to the Cardinals, where Dave was in attendance. They lost to the Patriots, where I was in attendance. They were losing games that they should have won and should have won handily. They won 2 games quite handily after some early adversity. And that's where you got to turn around and say, this feels different, and let's keep this going. And now let me talk about that second half real quick. It's not as daunting now as it was back in May when the schedule came out. So the 6-2 that you have to have, if you can get to that, and that's the hope for next week, well, that's not just 6-2 could be possible in the second half too, or 6-3, something like that, because this is what gives you a whole lot of hope and a better feeling than you've had a long time when you're just hoping to escape.
Amen. Well said, gentlemen. That does it. We do have one more super chat to get here. Dennis Pavlak gives us $5. He said the second half was the best half of football I've seen us play in years. Here we go. Amen, Dennis. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll be back next Monday night, another late one. Monday Night Football, Steelers, Giants. In the meantime, make sure you check out SteelCurtainNetwork.com for all your Steelers needs. Give us a check. I'm telling you, I'm real proud of that content. SteelCurtainNetwork.com. We're going to get a new site hopefully sooner rather than later. Also, all of our podcasts, you check out my Let's Ride tomorrow at 9 a.m. You'll get Bryan Anthony Davis and Coach KT Smith as well on the Here We Go Steelers show. All of it. Wherever you get your audio-only podcast, search Steelers or Steel Curtain Network. Subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do. Costs you nothing. We do appreciate all the support. But that does it for us. We appreciate all you guys and your support out there. We'll see you next week on another post-game show. Take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.